Okay, so this is reading 843 for you, the beautiful CD. You asked me specifically around work, and I guess also around relationships as well. So we'll have a look at that. And I'll spend most of my time here as I normally try and do, but we'll start here and work our way around as we normally do. I think I've done one or two for you before, my gorgeous, so you'll kind of know the score. We start off with this one here, which is Strafe or Blackthorn. I'm hesitating a little bit on this one partly because I don't like it. And partly because he's not actually saying an awful lot to me at the moment. Strafe or Blackthorn is in the position that themes the whole of your reading. And it's about sadness, it's about loneliness, it's about feeling, they're telling me defeated. Sometimes you feel defeated, empty, they're telling me. So right now for you, and for quite some time, they're saying to me, it's as though you've been feeling emotionally beaten up, for the want of a better phrase. Emotionally left, dumped. And I don't mean just in terms of relationships, I mean in terms of life in general. You're kind of feeling neglected at the moment. I'm going to see what else comes up, because I don't want this whole reading to be themed with such negativity, but we'll see what comes up. These three over here are talking about the last, in the past, you're often about the last 12 months or so, and they're themed with gort or ivy. And this is, the theme for gort, I guess, is survival, for the want of a better phrase. Gort says that for the last 12 months, you seem to have worked and worked and worked and worked, but it's about survival. It's not, you haven't worked at something that you love. You haven't worked at a job because you absolutely adore it and it motivates you and it drives you and it makes you feel passionate. You've worked at a job because you've absolutely had to pay the rent, kind of thing. So it's been about survival. Gort also tells me that, there's good to that, which is that you have survived. Financially it's been pretty bloody tough on occasions, but they're telling me again emotionally it's been tougher, and that you've survived it, which is just absolutely brilliant. But survival's not necessarily a positive term. Instead of that, we would have liked to have seen the term growth or blossoming. That's not what's happened for you in the last 12 months. It's just been a case of, head down, bum up, so to speak. Also, gort ivy tells me that on the surface you put on a lovely brave smile for everyone else, but underneath you're feeling really sad, really lonely, worried, they're telling me, about money, and empty. That motivationally there is no motivation. Motivation is limited for you because you've almost got to the point as well, we don't know what you want to do anymore either. You did have lots and lots of dreams, but they seem to have fallen by the wayside because opportunity didn't come up the way you wanted it to. I'm feeling so flat at this point. Underneath here we have heather, which is about love. It's about partnerships. It's about sharing, caring. But sitting over the top of that is alder or fian, and this is about seeking advice and support. And what I see here is that relationships in the last 12 months has been a real downer. But more than that, what I see here is that your self-esteem in terms of your contribution to relationships has also gone down as well. You don't feel as strong in yourself as you once were. This one sitting in the middle is gorse, sorry, or on, and it's talking about where we're at right now. And I think most of this kind of reflects that as well. Gorse says it's about sexuality, but it's actually upside down. So I can see here that there's not an awful lot of relationship love in your life at the moment. And in actual fact, there may be, so to speak, friends with benefits, if that makes sense, but there's no deep and meaningful stuff happening for you as much as you would want. The other thing with Gorse is that it talks very much financially about you just living day to day, week to week, and not being able to plan for the future, because financially there's not enough of a foundation, I guess, to give you the choices to be able to do that. And also there's a degree of not having enough ability to make decisions, because a lot of the decisions around the work that you do, a lot of the decisions around the work that you do are made by other people and not made by yourself. So it's kind of like that you're at the mercy of other people. These 4 staves over here talk about the next 12 months. So there's some better stuff coming, which is really good to see. This here is pine, and this is the theme for the next 12 months for you. Now, pine is about where gorse was about your inability to plan for the future and, you know, just coping day to day, week to week with what's happening. Pine is quite the reverse, and it says in the next 12 months you're going to be in a much better position to be able to plan for the year ahead, for your goals, going to be able to think about goals a little bit more rather than what you have been doing, which is just, oh my God, I just have to get through this week kind of thing. If you think about pine, I want you to think about a really tall pine tree in a forest. And pine says that you have the ability to climb to the top of that pine tree, which is so tall that it stands up above the rest of the forest below it. And you can sit right in the top of that pine tree, and you can see the forest laid out behind you and in front of you. And that's an analogy for your life. Pine says that in the next few weeks you will have the ability to sit down, I guess with a piece of paper and a pen, if you like, if that's the way you work, and actually plan your future out. Write the goals down, Pine is saying. Think about, don't think about the detail quite so much, but think about the bigger plan for the future, not sweating the small stuff, so to speak. So with that pen and paper, write down a goal for, well, what work do you actually want? Where do you want to live? I'm being told very strongly that you're not living in a place where you feel 100% comfortable. Where do you want to live? What do the finances look like? What does your social life look like? What does your romantic life look like? What does your spiritual life look like? You know, all of those different goal areas, your health. Write down a goal, because Pine says that you are very much coming up to the point, and it's backed up with this one here, where if you make the goals, you can achieve them. I'll pick up and tell you a little bit more about him here, because he backs that up an awful lot. Here we have Hawthorn or Huath, and he is, I guess, he's the stick in the mud for the year ahead, but he's not a total showstopper by any stretch of the imagination. Huath or Hawthorn says that you can achieve goals. These are all about goals. These 4 are all about goals and achievement and getting what you want in the coming year. So that's really, really positive in comparison to, you know, how heavy and empty and down I felt from these ones here. But Huath says that just because you write down your goals, just because you begin to work towards your goals, they're not all going to be achieved as easily as you would want. Now, Hawthorn doesn't say that you won't achieve them. He says that it's just going to be a little bit harder and a little bit take slightly longer than you would have anticipated. And the analogy for that is that here's your hawthorn bush, okay, and here's your goals. So that might be, the goal might be to find full-time work in a job that you absolutely love. So that's your goal. and you're here right now. Now, if you go and can't try and walk straight through hawthorn to the goal, hawthorn is a tree that's full of thorns, and it'll absolutely rip you to shreds if you try and go straight through. So what hawthorn says is you just need to find an alternative route. So you need to go around the hawthorn bush to get to your goal. Okay, so you are here, your goal is here. Instead of trying to go straight through, you find an alternative route to get to your goal. A plan B, if you like, CD, a plan B. What hawthorn also says is that don't get discouraged when your goals don't come to fruition the first time, because they will the second time. Think about things in a slightly different way to achieve what you want. It's about being resourceful, it's about being resilient, and you are pretty resilient already. This says you need to really draw on that even more in the next 12 months. Blink and well go for it, and be absolutely determined. And that doesn't mean to be determined to go straight through the hawthorn bush, but it means to be determined to achieve your goal, even if it means you have to go plan B, maybe even plan C, but you will get it. Now, sitting underneath that is this one here, which is you or Idaho, and this is about changes, but it's about changes that you make. So it's about you taking control again. And remember, I talked here that right now you're in the position, I keep sensing you're in the position where for work and where you live, social life, all of that kind of stuff is very much dependent on the decisions of other people, so that there are things that you can't do unless other people say that you can do them. For example, this says that's all going to change. Okay, that's all going to change. So what we have here is a very clear indicator that your job is going to change, but it's going to change as a result of you being absolutely determined. Once you've got that goal set in place and off you go, there will be a new job in place for you. You're going to be back in control again. And I'm really pleased to see this beautiful baby sitting here. This is Mewen or Vine, and this is also about achievement and goal. And it's in the position that kind of underpins the whole year ahead. So you need to put these two together. These two very rarely come up together. So I'm particularly in this in these points in the spread. So I'm really excited actually to see these, particularly in comparison to the crap that I kind of sense that you've had to deal with in the last year or two. Mewen or Vine is very much about reaping what you sow. It's about harvesting. It's about reward for effort. Now, there's a downside to this before we take that any further. If your effort is not clearly targeted, remember we talked about goals, if your effort is very scattergun, if your effort is just a reflection of everything that you've done in the year before, then you're going to get the same outcome. This says you need to change your goals. Okay, so I'm not sure what job it is that you want to go for, but I sense very much it's about caring for other people. I don't quite know what that means, but it's about caring for others. But there is different ways to do that. What I'm seeing in the next 12 months is that there's going to be some new study coming up for you. And I hear you groaning when I say that. As soon as I say that, oh no, not study. But I sense very much there's some new study and some new training. There's a new job for you, but it's in February or so, they're telling me, of next year. And you will be in control again. You'll be in control again of your job. You'll be in control again as a result of that, of your finances. And they're telling me that you will be living, your living is more stable. I don't understand what that means. You will feel more secure about where you're living. I hope that makes sense. I don't understand what that means, but I hope that does for you. In terms of relationship, I've got absolutely nothing coming up. There's nothing here that talks about relationship, CD, and I know that you really, that's not what you want to hear either. That's not to say that there isn't a relationship, but I don't see a meaningful, deep, strong long-term relationship for you inside the next 12 months. Doesn't mean to say that there isn't one coming up after that, but I don't see it inside the next 12 months. What I do see though, from Christmas time onwards and then into February and March and April of next year, is a very strong shift in job for you. And as a result of that really strong shift and positive change in job, that makes a huge difference to how you feel about who you are, about what your future holds. It's much more uplifting, it's much more vibrant for you. And I'm really pleased that you drew an animal oracle card that came up with Swan. And this is fantastic, because Swan, of course, we think of swans as being very graceful, but also being very loyal, because they partner up for life and that kind of stuff. And you are incredibly dedicated when in a relationship. You absolutely give of, your total soul. Swan is also, what this swan is particularly talking about as well, is that you need to have grace and diplomacy over the next 12 months or so. There will be several opportunities for you over the next 12 months to be involved in arguments and scuffles with people. What Swan is saying very, very strongly is, and he's backing up Pine here, don't sweat the small stuff, okay? Don't get involved in petty arguments. Don't get involved in stupid little crap. Save all of your energy for your own goals and your own achievements. Okay, now that doesn't necessarily mean being selfish. That's not what it's saying at all. But what it is saying is tap into that gracefulness that you have, and just elect to opt out of the little shit fights that happen with other people, and instead focus on you and on what you want and on your goals. Be methodical with your goals, and have them all written down and work diligently towards them. Swan also is lovely, because Swan is about hard work and diligence and effort. So on the top, above the water, the swan is very graceful, as you are. And remember, we talked here about you putting on a brave smile, but underneath things are hurting. That's the swan on top, but underneath, if you look at his little feet underneath, he's going like crazy under here. And that tends to be you as well, putting on the brave smile and the beautiful gracefulness, but underneath being really worried sometimes. So Swan is saying, chill out. Focus on the goals, write those goals up and put them somewhere where you can see them every single day. Know that you're working towards those, and know that you have the absolute capacity to achieve them. Swan is very much about, living in that. So I hope that gives you some, I guess, incentive to know that the year ahead in terms of work is going to be much better than it has been, even if I haven't been able to give you some good news in terms of relationship.